Okay, this is chapter 25 of Good Girl, Bad Blood. Wednesday, 5 days missing. April 29th, volunteer search party for Jamie Reynolds. Private, hosted by Pitt Fitz and Moby. Today at 4:30 p.m. Fairview High School, Fairview Drive, Fairview, Connecticut, 06820. Invited by Pip Fitz and Moby. 81 going, 12 maybe, 33 invited. Hello, everyone. As you might have heard, Connor Reynolds' older brother, Jamie, has been missing for 5 days now, and I am looking into his disappearance for my podcast. But I need your help. I've recently uncovered some information that provides an approximate area for Jamie's last known location. This area needs to be searched for any sign or clue as to where exactly Jamie was on Friday night and what might have happened to him. But the area is quite large, so I'm in desperate need of volunteers to help with the search. If you would like to offer a hand, meet after school today for the briefing, 4:30 p.m. at the end of the parking lot. If we have enough volunteers, we'll be splitting into 3 search teams led by me, Connor Reynolds, and Kara Ward. Please do find one of us to be assigned to a team. Thank you, and please let me know if you intend to come. 25. Every step Pip took was considered careful, staring down at the forest floor and the mud that bunched up around the outline of her shoes. A record of her having been there, a trail of imprints that stalked her through the woods, but she was looking for someone else's prints, the jagged vertical lines of the soles of the Nike sneakers Jamie had been wearing when he disappeared. And so was everyone else, eyes down and circling, searching for any of the signs Pip had mentioned in the briefing. 88 volunteers had turned up after school, most from her grade, but a few juniors too. 30 people on Connor's team, now searching the fields behind the school and knocking on doors at the far end of Thatcher Road, Acres End, and the lower part of Cortland to ask residents if they'd seen Jamie between 12:02 and 12:28 a.m. Friday night. 29 people on Kara's team, who were farther north, combing through the fields and farmland up near Old Farm Road and Blackfield Lane, and 29 people here with Pip, standing in a wide ant line, staggered every 6 feet as they searched from one end of Lodge Park to the other. Well, 30 people, now that Robbie had joined them. Max's trial had adjourned early today. It had been Max's turn on the stand, and Robbie told Pip reluctantly, with a glint in his eye, that looked like hate. Max and his lawyer had done an all-right job. They'd prepared an answer to everything the prosecution threw at Max in cross-examination. Closing remarks from both sides had followed, and then the judge sent the jury off to deliberate. I can't wait to see his face tomorrow when he goes down. Wish I could record it for you, Robbie had said, using one foot to check inside a holly bush, reminding Pip of that time they were in these very woods, recreating Andy Bell's murder to prove Sal didn't have time to be the killer. Pip glanced up to her other side, engaging a small, strained smile with Stella Chapman, but the face of Layla Mead stared back at her, sending a cold shiver down her back. They'd been out here for more than an hour already, and all the team had found was a tied baggie of dog shit and a crumpled bag of barbecue chips. Jamie, someone down the line called. The shouting had been going on for a while. Pip didn't know who'd started it, who first called out his name, but it had caught on, spreading sporadically up and down the line as they trudged on. Jamie, she called in response. It was probably pointless, a literal shout into the void. Jamie couldn't still be here, and if he was, he'd no longer be able to hear his name. But at least it felt like they were actually doing something. Pip stalled, breaking the line for a moment as she bent to check beneath a raised tree root. Nothing. Her phone chimed, disturbing the crunch of their feet. It was a text from Connor. Okay, we split into 3s to do the door knocking. Just finished Cortland and moving on to the fields. Found anything? Jamie. Pip was relieved she didn't have to cover Cortland, the road where Max Hastings lived, even though his house was just outside the search zone. And no one would be home anyway. Max and his parents were staying in an expensive hotel near the courthouse for the duration of the trial. But still, she was glad she didn't have to go anywhere near that house. Nothing yet, she texted back. Jamie. But as she pressed send, her screen was overtaken by an incoming call from Kara. Hey, Pip answered it in an almost whisper. Hi, yeah, Kara said, the wind rattling against her microphone. Someone on my team just found something. I've told everyone to stand back from it, set up a perimeter, as you'd say. But, you need to get here, now. What is it? Pip said, the panic riding her voice, twisting it. Where are you? We're at the farmhouse, the abandoned farmhouse on Sycamore Road. You know the one. Pip did know the one. On my way, she said. They were running now, her and Robbie, turning the corner onto Sycamore Road, the farmhouse set back and growing out of the small hill. Its dull white painted bricks were cut through and sliced up by blackened timber, and the roof seemed to be curving inward now, in a way that roofs shouldn't do, like it could no longer quite hold up the sky. And just out of sight, behind the abandoned building, was the place where Becca Bell had hidden her sister's body for 5.5 years. Andy had been right here all along, decomposing in the septic tank. Pip tripped as they crossed from gravel to grass, and Robbie's hand skimmed hers instinctively to pull her up. And as they neared, she saw the gathering of people. Kara's team, a colorful spattering of clothes against the dull colors of the farmhouse, and the long-neglected land strewn over with high tufts of weedy grass that tried to grab her feet. Everyone was standing in a loose formation, all eyes trained on the same place, a small cluster of trees by the side of the house, the branches going close to the building, like they were slowly reaching over to claim it as their own. Kara was at the front of the group with Naomi, waving to Pip as she shouted over her shoulder for everyone to get back. "What is it?" Pip said, breathless. "What did you find?" "It's over there, in the long grass at the bottom of those trees," Naomi pointed. "It's a knife," said Kara. "A knife?" Pip repeated the words, her feet following her eyes over to the trees. And she knew. She knew before she even saw exactly which knife it would be. Ravi was beside her as she bent down to look, and there it was, half concealed by the grass, a gray-bladed knife with a yellow band around the handle. "That's the one missing from the Reynolds' kitchen, isn't it?" Ravi asked, but he didn't need Pip to answer. Her eyes told him enough. She studied it through squinted eyes, not daring to get any closer. From here, a few feet away, the knife looked clean. Maybe a few flecks of dirt, but no blood. Not enough to be seen, at least. Pip sniffed, pulling out her phone to take a photo of the knife where it lay. Then she drew back, beckoning Ravi to come with her. "Okay," she said, panic hardening into something like dread. But Pip could control dread. Use it. "Kara, can you call Connor? Tell him to let everyone on his team go and come over here right now." "On it," Kara said, phone already halfway to her ear. "Naomi, when Kara's done, can you tell her to call Zach to dismiss my search team as well?" Pip and Ravi had left their team in the care of Zach and Stella Chapman, but they wouldn't find anything out there in the woods because Jamie had come here. Jamie was here, carrying a knife he must have taken from his house. Here at the outer limit of their search zone, which meant that his brief stop had been somewhere else before he'd walked to the farmhouse. And here, right here at 12:28 a.m., his Fitbit stopped recording his heart rate and step count, and there was a knife. A knife was evidence, and evidence had to be dealt with in the correct way without breaking the chain of custody. No one here had touched the knife, and no one would, not until the police arrived. Pip dialed the number of the Fairview police station. She walked away from the gathering, plugging her other ear against the wind. "Hello, Eliza," she said. "Yes, it's Pip Fitzamoby." "Yep. Is anyone at the station?" "Uh-huh." "Could you do me a favor and ask anyone who's free to come over to the farmhouse on Sycamore Road?" "Yes, that's where Andy, but..." "No, this is about an open missing persons case. Jamie Reynolds. I found a knife that's connected to his case, and it needs to be collected and documented as evidence. I know I'm supposed to call the other number. Could you just... This one favor, Eliza, I swear, just this once." She paused, listening down the other end. Thank you. 15 minutes, she said when she rejoined Ravi. They might as well use those 15 minutes, start trying to work out why Jamie might have come here. "Can you keep everyone back from those trees?" she asked Naomi. "Yeah, sure." "Come on." Pip led Ravi toward the farmhouse entrance, the red-painted front door dangling from its hinges, like a mouth hanging open. They stepped through, and the inside of the house wrapped them up in its dim light. The windows were fogged over by moss and grime, and the old carpet crunched under her feet, covered in stains. It even smelled abandoned in here, mildew and must and dust. "When do we move in?" Ravi said, looking around in disgust. "Like, your bedroom is much better than this." They continued down the hall, the old faded blue wallpaper peeling off and away in rolls that exposed the white underside, like small waves breaking up against the walls. An archway opened into a large space that once must have been a living room. There was a staircase on the far side, yellowing and peeling. Windows with limp, sun-bleached curtains that might have been floral patterned in a previous life. Two old red sofas in the middle, brushed with gray, clinging dust. As Pip stepped closer, she noticed a break in the dust on one of the sofa's cushions, a clearer circular patch of the red material, as though someone had sat here recently. Look, Robbie drew her attention to the center of the room, where there were three small metal trash cans upturned into stools. Scattered around them were food wrappers, Oreos, potato chip packages, empty Pringles cans, discarded beer bottles, and butts of hand-rolled cigarettes. Maybe not so abandoned after all, Robbie said, bending to pick up one of the butts, raising it to his nose. Smells like weed. Great, and now we put your prints on it, if this is a crime scene. Oh yeah, he said and gritted his teeth, a guilty look in his eyes. Maybe I'll just take this one home with me to dispose of. He pocketed it and straightened up. Why would people come here to hang out and smoke? Pip said, studying the scene, questions surfacing from every corner. That's rather morbid. Don't they know what happened here? That this is where Andy's body was found? It's probably part of its charm, Robbie said, sliding into his movie trailer voice. Old, abandoned murder house. The perfect place for a smoke and a snack. Looks like whoever it is comes here pretty often, and I'm guessing this is a nighttime activity. Maybe it's worth us coming back later tonight, staking out the place. See who comes here? They might be connected to Jamie's disappearance, or maybe they saw something last Friday. Stakeout? Pip smiled. All right, Sarge. Hey, you're Sarge. Don't use my own names. Don't use my own names against me. Police are here, Naomi called into the farmhouses. Pip and Robbie were showing Connor and Kara what they found inside. I'll go deal with them. Pip hurried back through the hallway and into the outside world. She screwed her eyes until they adjusted to the brightness. A police car had pulled up on the gravel road, doors on either side pushing open. Daniel De Silva stepped out from the driver's side, straightening his police cap, and Soria Budiski from the other. Hi, Pip called, walking forward to greet them. Eliza said it was you, Daniel said, unable or unwilling to hide the disdain in his voice. He didn't like Pip, not since she'd suspected him of being Andy's killer, and that was fine because Pip didn't much like him either. Yep, it's me, cause of all the trouble in Fairview since 2019, she said flatly, catching sight of Soria smiling quickly. Here, it's this way. She led them across the grass, pointing them toward the small bundle of trees. Daniel and Soria continued over to the long grass by the roots. Pip watched them looking down at the knife and then looking at each other. What is this? Daniel called to her. It's a knife, she said, and then more helpfully, the same knife that's missing from a rack in the Reynolds' house. Jamie Reynolds, remember? He's missing. Friends with your sister? Yes, Case number 4900152. Yes, okay, Daniel interrupted. What is all this? He gestured to the students still gathered a ways back from the farmhouse. That is a search team, Pip said. When the police won't do anything, I guess you've got to turn to high schoolers instead. The muscles twitched in Daniel De Silva's cheek as he chewed on his tongue. Right, he shouted, clapping his hands loudly 3 times, surprising her. Everyone go home, now. The students disbanded immediately, breaking off into small whispering groups. Pip gave them a grateful nod as they moved past the police and away to the road. But the Ward sisters didn't go, and neither did Connor or Robbie, standing in the entrance of the farmhouse. This knife is vital evidence to a missing persons case, Pip said, trying to regain control. It needs to be collected and documented and handed over to the evidence clerk. Yes, I know how evidence works, Daniel said darkly. Did you put this here? He pointed at the knife. No, she said, that hot primal feeling awakening again. Of course I didn't. I wasn't even here when it was found. We'll take it, Soria stepped in, placing herself between Daniel and Pip, disarming them. I'll make sure it's correctly dealt with, don't worry. The look in her eyes was so different from Daniel's, kind, unsuspicious. Thank you, Pip said, as Soria made her way back to the squad car. When she was out of earshot, Daniel spoke again, not looking at Pip. If I find out this isn't real, that you're wasting police time. It's real, she said, the words crushing down to fit through her gritted teeth. Jamie Reynolds is really missing. The knife is really here, and I know the police don't have the resources to make every case a priority, but please listen to me. Tell Hawkins. Something bad has happened here. I know it. Daniel didn't respond. "Do you hear me?" she said. "Foul play. Someone could be dead, and you're doing nothing. Something happened to Jamie, right here." She gestured toward the knife. "It has something to do with someone Jamie's been talking to online, a woman named Layla Mead, but that's not her real—" And she started to a stop, eyes circling his face, because as soon as she said Layla's name, Daniel's reaction had been immediate. He sniffed, nostrils flaring, dropping his eyes like he was trying to hide them from her. A creep of pink spread across his cheeks as his wavy light brown hair fell across his forehead. "You know Layla," Pip said. "You've been talking to her, too." "I have no idea what you're talking about." "You've been talking to Layla," she said. "Do you know who she really is?" "I haven't been talking to anyone," Daniel said in a low, rattling hiss that made the hairs on Pip's neck stand end up. "No one, you understand, and if I hear a word about this from you again—" He ended the silence there, leaving Pip to fill in the blank he'd left behind. He stepped back from her and straightened out his face just as Soria was returning from the car, her hands covered by blue plastic gloves gripped around a paper evidence bag. Photograph of knife outside abandoned farmhouse. And there's what the knife looks like. Okay. Case Notes 5. The knife. Found in a location that corresponds to Jamie's step count data before his Fitbit stopped recording and his phone was turned off. I think this confirms it was Jamie who took the knife, which means he had to have gone home between the calamity party and the sighting on Weevil Road to pick up his hoodie and the knife. But why did he need a weapon? What had made him so afraid? If the theory is that Jamie did indeed return home, how does the timing work with Arthur Reynolds' movements? How did Jamie have enough time to visit Nat De Silva, walk home, and grab his hoodie and the knife all before his dad got back at 11:15 p.m.? The timing isn't just right, it's almost impossible. Something in my timeline isn't right, and that means someone is lying. I should try to talk to Nat again. Maybe she'll be more honest with me about Jamie when her boyfriend isn't there. Daniel De Silva. He's been talking to Layla Mead. His reaction made that perfectly obvious. Is it possible he knows who she really is? He was clearly trying to hide any connection to her. Is that because he knows something? Or is it because he wouldn't want that information getting back to his wife, who's taking care of their new baby, while Daniel has presumably been talking inappropriately to another woman online? I got the sense last year that this isn't out of character for Daniel. And another observation, we now know of 3 people Layla Mead has been talking to: Jamie, Adam Clark, and Daniel De Silva. And here's the slightly strange thing, all 3 of these men are in the 29 to recently 30 age. Well, not Jamie, but that's what his profile originally said. And they all look vaguely similar, white with brownish hair. Is this a coincidence, or is there something to it? The farmhouse. Jamie went there on Friday night. Well, at least he was just outside. And clearly the place isn't as abandoned as we thought. We need to find out who goes there and why, and whether they are connected to Jamie's disappearance. Stakeout tonight. I'm picking Ravi up just before midnight, meeting Connor and Kara there. I've just got to wait for Mom and Dad to fall asleep first. I parked my car down the road and told them I'd left it at school so they wouldn't hear me when I go. Need to remember to avoid the 3rd stair down. That's the creaky one. A Girl's Guide to Murder. The Disappearance of Jamie Reynolds. Season 2, Episode 2 successfully uploaded to SoundCloud.